I stood in the marriage registry, my heart pounding. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Did you hear that? I whispered to the clerk, my voice barely audible. She nodded, her eyes filled with sympathy. I'm so sorry, Miss Bennett. Would you like me to return the form? I nodded, still in shock. The clerk discreetly slid the marriage registration back across the counter. My fingers trembled as I tucked it into my purse. Just moments ago, I'd overheard my soon-to-be mother-in-law, Patricia, whispering to Eli's sister, Lila. Once Mary's part of the family, we'll have access to her entire salary. No more financial worries for us. Lila had giggled. And she'll do all the housework too. It's perfect. I glanced over at Eli, my fiancé. He was chatting with his father, Gerald, completely oblivious to the conversation I'd just overheard. Or was he? A seed of doubt took root in my mind. Mary, darling, is everything all right? Patricia's saccharine voice cut through my thoughts. She approached, all smiles and false concern. I forced a smile. Of course, just a bit overwhelmed. It's a big day after all. Patricia patted my arm. Don't you worry, dear. You're part of our family now. We'll take good care of you. The irony of her words made me want to scream. Instead, I nodded, maintaining my facade. Thank you, Patricia. That means so much to me. As we left the registry, Eli took my hand. Ready to start our new life together, sweetheart? I looked into his eyes, searching for any sign that he was part of this scheme. But all I saw was love and excitement. Was I imagining things? Or was Eli an unwitting pawn in his family's plan? One thing was certain, I needed answers. And I wasn't about to let anyone take advantage of me, not even the family I'd so desperately wanted to be a part of. Actually, Eli, I said, making a split-second decision, I was thinking, why don't we move in with your parents for a while? To save money for our future. Eli's face lit up. That's a great idea. Mom and Dad will be thrilled. As Patricia and Gerald enthusiastically agreed, I caught a gleam in Patricia's eye that sent a chill down my spine. I'd just walked into the lion's den. But this time, I was going in with my eyes wide open. I stood in the doorway of Eli's childhood bedroom, now our shared space, fighting back tears. The walls, plastered with his old sports posters, felt like they were closing in on me. How had I ended up here? Mary, dear. Patricia's shrill voice echoed from downstairs. Come help me with dinner. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Coming, Patricia. As I chopped vegetables in the kitchen, Patricia hovered nearby, her eyes constantly darting to my engagement ring. You know, Mary, she began, her voice sickly sweet, I've been thinking about your finances. It would make sense for you to contribute to the household expenses now that you're living here. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. Of course, that's only fair. What did you have in mind? Patricia's eyes gleamed. Well, considering all we're providing, how about your entire salary? I nearly sliced my finger. My entire salary? It's for the family, dear, she cooed. We're all in this together now. I forced a smile. Let me discuss it with Eli first. That night, I lay awake next to Eli, my mind racing. I needed to gather more evidence, but how? The next morning, I cornered Lila in the hallway. Hey, can we talk? I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed with all the changes. Lila's face softened. Of course, sis. What's up? I took a chance. Your mom mentioned something about my salary. I'm not sure I understood correctly. Lila's eyes widened, then narrowed. Oh, that. Well, it's only fair, right? I mean, we're providing you with a home, food, everything. The least you can do is contribute. My heart sank. So it wasn't just Patricia. The whole family was in on it. Over the next few days, the demands escalated. Patricia assigned me all the housework, Lila borrowed my clothes without asking, and Gerald expected me to help with his business without pay. Through it all, Eli remained oblivious or complicit. I couldn't tell which was worse. One night, as I scrubbed dishes after another tense family dinner, Eli wrapped his arms around me from behind. I'm so happy you're here, he murmured. It's like you've always been part of the family. I turned to face him, searching his eyes. Eli, Do you think your family's requests are reasonable? He frowned. What do you mean? They've welcomed you with open arms. In that moment, I knew. Eli was either blind to his family's manipulation or actively participating in it. I made a decision then. I would play along, gather evidence, and when the time was right, I'd expose their true nature. As I lay in bed that night, my phone buzzed. A text from my coworker, Justin. Hey, everything okay? You've seemed stressed lately. I'm here if you need to talk. I stared at the message, a small spark of hope igniting in my chest. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. The morning sun barely peeked through the curtains when Patricia's shrill voice pierced my dreams. Mary, the bathroom needs cleaning. I groaned, checking my phone. 6:30 a.m. This was getting ridiculous. As I scrubbed the toilet, my mind raced. I needed to document everything. Grabbing my phone, I started a voice memo. Day 5 living with the Thompsons. Woken at 6:30 for housework. What are you doing? Lila's voice made me jump. I fumbled with my phone, nearly dropping it in the toilet. Oh, just checking my work emails, I lied. Lila's eyes narrowed. At 6:30? In the bathroom? I forced a laugh. You know how it is in IT. Always on call. She didn't look convinced, but left without another word. My heart pounded. That was close. Later that day, I overheard Patricia and Gerald in the kitchen. We need to push harder, Patricia hissed. That girl's salary could solve all our problems. Gerald sighed. Don't you think we're asking too much? Nonsense. She owes us. We're giving her a family, aren't we? I felt sick. They saw me as nothing more than a cash cow. That evening, Eli cornered me in our room. Mom says you haven't given her your salary yet. I stared at him, disbelieving. Eli, that's my entire income. How are we supposed to build a future if Dash? Mary, he cut me off, his voice stern. My family has welcomed you with open arms. The least you can do is contribute. In that moment, I saw Eli for who he truly was, a puppet dancing to his mother's tune. I nodded, fighting back tears. You're right. I'll transfer the money tomorrow. Eli's face softened. He kissed my forehead. That's my girl. I knew you'd understand. As soon as he left, I grabbed my laptop and logged into my bank account. With shaking hands, I set up a new savings account and transferred most of my salary there, leaving just enough in my checking account to make it look depleted. My phone buzzed. Another text from Justin. Hey, still up for that coffee tomorrow? Looks like you could use a friend. I hesitated, then replied, definitely. There's a lot I need to talk about. As I lay in bed that night, listening to Eli's soft snores, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I'd start fighting back. The Thompsons thought they had me under their thumb, but they were about to learn just how wrong they were. I closed my eyes, a plan forming in my mind. Let them think they've won. Their true colors were showing, and I was ready to paint a masterpiece of justice with them. I stood in the living room, my heart pounding as I faced Eli and his family. The evidence I'd gathered over the past weeks felt like a weight in my pocket. We need to talk, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Patricia's saccharine smile faltered. What about, dear? I took a deep breath. I know what you've been doing. The demands for my salary, the endless housework, the isolation from my friends. It stops now. The room fell silent. Eli's face paled, while Patricia's eyes narrowed dangerously. I don't know what you think you're talking about, Gerald blustered, but I cut him off. I have recordings, I said, pulling out my phone, of your conversations about using me for my money and labor. Lila gasped. Eli stepped forward, his expression a mix of shock and anger. You've been spying on us? I've been protecting myself, I shot back. Did you really think I wouldn't notice how you've all been treating me? Patricia's facade cracked. You ungrateful little dash. Save it, I interrupted. I'm done. I'm leaving, and I'm not giving you another cent. Eli grabbed my arm. Mary, you can't just dash. I yanked away from him. Don't touch me. And by the way, we're not legally married. I never submitted the registration. The room erupted into chaos. Patricia screamed accusations, Gerald tried to reason with me, and Lila burst into tears. But it was Eli's reaction that cut deepest. You tricked us, he snarled. After everything we've done for you. I laughed bitterly. Done for me? You've done nothing but use me, Eli. And you were either too blind or too selfish to see it. As I turned to leave, Patricia made one last desperate attempt. If you walk out that door, you'll have no one. You'll be alone. I paused at the threshold, looking back at the family I'd once dreamed of joining. I'd rather be alone than with people who see me as nothing more than a meal ticket. With that, I walked out, ignoring their shouts and threats. My hands shook as I got into my car, but a sense of relief washed over me. It was over. I was free. As I drove away, my phone buzzed. A text from Justin. How did it go? Are you okay? I smiled, realizing that Patricia was wrong. I wasn't alone. I had friends, my career, and most importantly, I had myself. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in months, I felt hopeful. It was time to rebuild my life on my own terms. I collapsed onto my couch, the adrenaline from the confrontation finally wearing off. My phone buzzed incessantly, missed calls and angry texts from Eli and his family. With trembling fingers, I blocked their numbers one by one. A knock at the door made me jump. Mary? It's Justin. Are you okay? I hesitated, then opened the door. Justin's concerned face was a welcome sight after weeks of manipulation. I heard shouting when I called earlier, he said, stepping inside. What happened? As I recounted the confrontation, Justin's expression shifted from shock to anger to relief. I'm so glad you're out of there, he said, squeezing my hand. His touch sent a jolt through me, and I pulled away, suddenly overwhelmed. I'm sorry, I need some time. Justin nodded, understanding. Of course. I'm here if you need anything. After he left, I sat in silence, processing the day's events. My phone pinged with an email notification. My breath caught as I read the subject line, termination of employment. With shaking hands, I opened it. Eli's father, Gerald, had used his connections to get me fired. The reason? Breach of trust and corporate espionage. Panic set in. They were trying to destroy me. Without a job, how would I survive? How could I fight back? Another email arrived, this time from an unknown sender. The message was brief. We know what you did. Meet us tomorrow at noon in the park, or we'll release the recordings to the police. My mind raced. What recordings? I hadn't done anything illegal. Then it hit me. They were bluffing, trying to scare me into compliance. I paced my apartment, weighing my options. I could give in, crawl back to them, and lose everything I'd fought for. Or I could stand my ground and risk whatever they might throw at me next. My eyes fell on a framed photo of my parents. They had always taught me to stand up for myself, even when it was hard. Even when it felt impossible. In that moment, I made my decision. I wouldn't let Eli and his family win. I'd fight back, not just for myself, but for anyone else they might try to exploit in the future. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I never thought I'd use. Hello, is this the police? I'd like to report a case of harassment and blackmail. As I spoke to the officer, a sense of calm washed over me. For the first time in months, I felt in control of my life. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it head-on. The courtroom buzzed with tension as I took the stand. Months of preparation had led to this moment. Across the room, Eli and his family glared at me, their faces a mix of anger and fear. Ms. Bennett, my lawyer began, please tell the court about your experience with the Thompson family. As I recounted the manipulation, the financial exploitation, and the emotional abuse, I saw the jury's expressions shift from skepticism to shock. Patricia's face turned red with rage, while Gerald looked increasingly uncomfortable. Eli's lawyer tried to discredit me during cross-examination, but I stood firm. I have evidence, I said, my voice steady. Recordings, financial records, everything. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. I caught Justin's eye in the gallery. His encouraging nod gave me strength. As I stepped down, Lila suddenly stood up. I can't do this anymore, she blurted out. It's all true. We've done this before. Chaos ensued. The judge called for order as Eli's family turned on each other. In the commotion, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Justin. You did it, he whispered. It's almost over. But as we left the courthouse, a reporter thrust a microphone in my face. "Ms. Bennett, how do you respond to allegations that you fabricated evidence to frame the Thompsons?" My heart sank. How could they twist this? I opened my mouth to respond, but Justin gently pulled me away. That night, as negative headlines flooded social media, doubt crept in. Had I done the right thing? The phone rang. It was my old boss. "Mary, I've been following the case." "I believe you. How would you like your job back?" Tears of relief streamed down my face. Maybe things were turning around. But just as hope bloomed, another crisis hit. An anonymous email arrived. "Drop the charges, or everyone will know your darkest secret." My blood ran cold. There was only one secret they could be referring to, something I'd buried long ago, something that could ruin everything I'd fought for. As I stared at the screen, paralyzed with fear, Justin walked in. "Mary? What's wrong?" I looked up at him, my voice barely a whisper. "I think I've lost everything." My hands trembled as I stared at the anonymous email threatening to expose my darkest secret. Justin's concerned voice barely registered. "Mary, what's going on?" I took a deep breath. "They know, Justin. About the data breach at my old company." His eyes widened. "The one you accidentally caused?" I nodded, shame washing over me. "I fixed it before anyone found out, but if this gets out now, it'll look like you're not credible," Justin finished, understanding dawning on his face. Just then, my phone rang. It was my lawyer. "Mary, the Thompsons want to settle. They're offering to drop everything if you withdraw your charges." My mind raced. If I accepted, this nightmare would end. But the Thompsons would go unpunished, free to prey on others. As I weighed my options, another call came through. Unknown number. With shaking hands, I answered. "Mary? It's Lila." I want to help." Shock coursed through me. "Why should I trust you?" "Because I'm done with their lies," Lila's voice cracked. "I'll testify. About everything." Hope bloomed, but doubt lingered. Could this be another trap? Justin squeezed my hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." I looked at him, seeing unwavering support in his eyes. In that moment, I realized something profound. Despite everything the Thompsons had put me through, I'd found something real, something worth fighting for. "Lila," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "meet me at my lawyer's office in an hour." As I hung up, Justin pulled me close. "You're the strongest person I know, Mary. And I love you." The words hung in the air, a beacon of light in the darkness. I leaned into his embrace, finding strength I didn't know I had. "I love you too," I whispered. As we headed out, ready to face whatever came next, I felt a shift inside me. The Thompsons had tried to break me, but they'd only made me stronger. With Justin by my side and the truth as my weapon, I was ready for the final battle. Little did I know, the biggest challenge was yet to come. The morning of my wedding to Justin dawned bright and clear. As I stood before the mirror in my simple white dress, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. She looked strong, confident, and happy. A knock at the door startled me. "Mary? It's Evelyn." My heart raced as I opened the door to face my estranged sister. "I know I have no right to be here," she said, tears in her eyes, "but I couldn't miss this. I'm so sorry for everything." Emotions warred within me, but as I looked at her, I realized something. The pain of the past no longer held power over me. "Come in," I said, pulling her into a hug. As we walked down the aisle together, I saw Justin waiting for me, his face beaming with love. Our small gathering of true friends watched as we exchanged vows, promising to support and cherish each other. Just as we were pronounced husband and wife, a commotion erupted at the back of the room. Eli burst in, looking disheveled and desperate. "Mary, please. I've left my family. I realize now what I've lost. Give me another chance." The room fell silent. I felt Justin tense beside me, but I squeezed his hand reassuringly. Turning to Eli, I spoke calmly. "Eli, I forgive you. But my heart belongs here now. I hope you find happiness, but it won't be with me." Eli's face crumpled, but then something unexpected happened. Lila appeared beside him, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Come on, Eli. Let's go. It's time we both started over." As they left, I felt the last weight lift from my shoulders. I turned to Justin, seeing my future in his eyes. "Ready for our new beginning?" he asked. I smiled, feeling truly free for the first time. More than ready. Later, at our reception, I looked around at the faces of those who had stood by me through it all. Evelyn, tentatively building bridges. My coworkers, who had become true friends. And Justin, my rockin' partner. I raised my glass for a toast. To second chances, to standing up for ourselves, and to building the families we choose. May we always remember that true love empowers us, never diminishes us. As cheers erupted, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a window. The woman looking back was no longer searching for approval or acceptance. She had found her strength, her voice, and her happy ending. In that moment, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them. With Justin by my side and the lessons of the past to guide me, I stepped confidently into my future, finally whole and truly loved.